and will have conference calls. Konstantin Petrovich, can all countries be assured that from the territory of Ukraine there will never take off a nuclear rocket? Unconditionally, that is the case. One more minister in our military minister in our program is Mr. Shaposhnikov, who is the Minister of Defense of the USSR. He invited in journalists today for a conference. So we have an announcement here that the President of Ukraine has declared himself to be the Commander-in-Chief of Ukraine. Could you comment this statement? I want to say that the President of any republic has the right to do this. It's a different question, however, which troubles me. That is the question of jurisdiction within the republics and the status of the armed forces stationed on the territory of a republic. Leonid Kravchuk and I had a long, thorough conversation in this regard, and likewise with the President of the USSR and the President of Russia, Mr. Yeltsin, and we agreed with Mr. Kravchuk that we would not take any hasty steps, and that if this process is necessary to the Ukraine, we'll have to do it in a human, civilized fashion, do it on a stage-by-stage basis, work out a strict mechanism, and with this goal, the Ministry of Defense sent General Pinkov, and also from we also sent somebody from the General Staff to meet with Mr. Kravchuk. Does that mean that Mr. Kravchuk will be in charge of nuclear forces? No, that does not mean that. We spoke for a long time to him. We were totally in agreement. Not only strategic nuclear forces, but tactical nuclear forces, and all means which support nuclear weaponry will continue to remain under the control of the center. We will have the full interview of the Minister of Defense after our program. So we are here in Tallinn, in Estonia. The Presidium of the Supreme Soviet of Estonia has stated in a decree, the Estonian Republic greets the creation of the Commonwealth and expresses the hope that the formation of this union will create an opportunity for cooperation between the Commonwealth and Estonia. Arnold Rutel, who is the chairman of the organization, said that the agreement concluded in Belarus was the only possible step in the state of collapse of the Soviet Union. The Deputy Speaker, Mario Lauriston, said that he hoped that the political and economic relations of Estonia with the other republics or former republics of the USSR will develop more quickly without the presence of the center. As far as joining the Commonwealth on the part of Estonia, there was no talk of this. This is London. We've had quick events taking place in our country, and they have dominated the news here in London. And we've had a lot of comment in the press and media. There are programs on television which are starting off all the news programs in London. The new Commonwealth was discussed cautiously in London originally, but now it is evaluated as the most effective step intended to extract us from the situation and improving our position. The only thing that troubles official London is the question of who will be controlling the Soviet nuclear arsenal. This concern was strengthened after the decision of Mr. Kravchuk to take upon himself the functions of Commander-in-Chief of the armed forces stationed on Ukrainian territory. In England, as in other countries of the West, the opinion has come to dominate that humanitarian and other aid should be sent to our country to prevent a social explosion and disorders. This was the declaration of Mr. John Major in Parliament, who stressed that the countries of the Soviet Union of Europe will soon begin deliveries of food, and we will try first of all to help the densely populated urban centers such as Moscow and St. Petersburg. This is Brussels. Brussels, and this is the NATO headquarters reacting to our events. So if we look at point 14 of the resolution, we will see that it basically amounts to a statement that the Soviet arsenal, nuclear arsenal, should remain under a unified command. Participants called upon our republics to resolve our problems on a constructive and peaceful basis. The hope was expressed that the countries would continue to observe Soviet agreements on nuclear security. Manfred Werner, who is the General Secretary of NATO, stated that the U.S. presence and the transatlantic link was a guarantee of peace and stability in the region. At the same time, he did not exclude the possibility of a role on the part of the Western European Union. The joint initiative of Bonn and Paris to create a joint unit did not receive support. The corridors here are empty, but not for long. A week from now, on the 20th of December, there will be a meeting of NATO on the level of heads of bureaucratic agencies. For the first time in the first 40 years of the history of NATO, the ministers of foreign affairs of the former Warsaw Pact countries have been invited. In Brussels, we will see the heads of the Baltic states. Our state will be represented by Mr. Shevardnadze. Today, there was a telephone conversation between the President of Russia and the President of the U.S., Mr. Bush. We don't know the details, only that both sides exchanged opinions with regard to the events taking place in Russia and within the Soviet Union as a whole. Georgia has recognized the Ukrainian Republic and wishes to establish diplomatic relations on an ambassadorial level. We now have a severe need to do something about the Caucasian republics and think about creating a Caucasian Commonwealth. This is a quote published from the document by Mr. Dudayev. There was Congress with regard to the North Ossetian people, especially in North Ossetia. No longer there will be discrimination with regard to residence permits between residents of Moscow and the residence permits of people who live in the greater Moscow region. As of the 1st of January of '92, they will have a unified residence permit status. Today, the President of the USSR, Mr. Gorbachev, met with a group of prominent journalists from the magazine Time, and he answered their questions. Mikhail Gorbachev touched upon the political situation in the country. He was in favor of a constitutional method of resolving the crisis and said he would do everything to attempt to prevent a confrontation within the country. With regard to the possibility of military coup, he said this was out of the question, although there was a danger that the conservatives might attempt to speculate on the situation, but he was sure that a putsch was not possible. But there could be disorders because of the worsening material situation, and this had to be prevented by joint efforts. A significant role here might be played by assistance from foreign countries. Today in the Bundestag, Chancellor Kohl made a statement on the results of the Maastricht meeting, and then there were debates. In spite of the inevitable criticism on the part of the opposition, it's possible that more might have been achieved, particularly with regard to social policies. So this was a vision of a unified West. The concepts of Germany were supported by all members of the Commonwealth community. This was a signal of approval for our neighbors. Here he had us in mind. Many of our people would like to create a Commonwealth similar to the European community. But if we compare the current economic community, European community, with an automobile, maybe we shouldn't buy it, because this is a car which is somewhat outdated. The Germans are hoping to improve and increase their economic level and power. We can say here that we have cautiousness on the part of the Germans with regard to the decisions that will be taken by the leaders of our republics. We have an unclear situation of development within our country, and so the Germans don't know what to say either, what they think is going to happen. The Secretary of State, James Baker, spoke about the new approach on the part of the United States with regard to the Soviet Union. He wants the Soviet nuclear arsenal to remain under a unified command. In this connection, Mr. Baker said the administration was ready to utilize $400 million from the Pentagon budget for liquidating or destroying the Soviet nuclear arsenal. America has celebrated the release of all the hostages in Lebanon. Mr. Bush, congratulate them on their first free Christmas in so many years. Altogether, they spent 28 years in